All right, hey folks, it's Ted here with Whitewater Inflatable Kayaking, and just met Karen here on the river. We actually met at the put-in earlier today on the Nantahala, and we were talking about her NRS Outlaw. And so I've owned a couple of these boats myself, and I think there's some real good things about these, and they're good value. So, so I guess Karen, what's your experience paddling? And what rivers do you generally paddle?
Well, we started paddling about 10 years ago, real slow, mostly Nantahala, Partakay, Tuckasegee, and Chattooga.
Okay.
So that we've done.
Yeah, and you mentioned you've been paddling a hard boat.
I did. I started out in a hard boat, fell in love with my Jackson Fun Runner.
Yeah.
Loved it more every time I paddled it, but I had the beginnings of Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So I lose my balance very easy now, and I just could not stay up. The slightest bump and I'd
tip you
be over. Yeah.
Yeah, so you needed a more stable boat and something a little more forgiving.
I did. Well, I thought my paddling days were over.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay up. But someone suggested, well, get a ducky. You can get them smaller and for whitewater.
Sure.
Oh. So that was news to me, and my husband found this one, and I'm back in the water.
That's great.
And I'm having fun now again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, the thing that I have noticed over the years, and I mean, I've joked about it forever because I'll paddle a hard boat sometimes and a ducky sometimes, but we've always said, you know, when we're coming down the river in a ducky, we're all laughing and having a good time, and when I'm in a hard boat, I'm very stressed.
Yeah.
Not that there's plenty of fun to have in both, but I'm just saying these are definitely kind of built for fun, and I think it's because they're so
for someone who's going to take it more easy, that they're not out for adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
You just want to have fun.
Well, I agree.
And that's how I did my hard boat too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, everybody's not running Class 5 waterfalls, so.
No, I raised teenage boys, so yeah.
I'm with you. All right, well, great. That's wonderful. Okay, well, let's take a look at this boat here. So I know these are made out of PVC. There are, you know, some people go back and forth on that. I've got some rafts that are made out of PVC versus Hypalon or urethane. So the weight of PVC is a little more than maybe urethane. And then, you know, some people think that maybe it won't last as long as a Hypalon boat, but I don't think that's been proven yet. They're pretty durable. So for starters, the ones I had before were a tandem, and I would set it up sometimes as a solo and, you know, ran like the Akoi and some things in it. A very stable boat. The tubes on these are fairly small. They're either 10.5 or 11 inch. Which I think is kind of nice. They're not like, you don't have to reach out so far to, you know, put your paddle over the side.
You can still feel the river in it, which is what I really like.
Yeah,
you know, the great big ones that you rent,
yes,
you're kind of isolated from the river and
I agree.
Not maneuverable.
And I think that those big, clumsy commercial sized rafts actually give the duckies a bad name. But,
yes.
But these things are pretty nimble. So yeah, I love these handles they've got built on, and I actually really like the front cap here. It's made out of kind of like a hard rubber. It's still flexible. You know, my airboat just has the PVC or whatever that comes up to the front and kind of folds around. So I like that tip. It's kind of like what you see on the front of a catamaran shredder style raft these days. So yeah, you got these nice handles front and back with rubber grip. You've got some attachment points, so it's got D-rings on either side on the front and back, so you can strap things in, and there's room for gear in these as well. You also notice it's got the drop stitch floor. It's I can't remember, it's 2 or 3 inches thick, maybe 4 even, just feeling that. And so that can be pumped up really like tight to like 8 or 10 pounds of pressure, which will make it really a stiff boat. You can kind of stand up in it. This one also has the, she's got the thigh straps. I've said this 100 times. I think if you're going to paddle whitewater in these, you need the thigh straps. What are your thoughts on that?
don't even try it without the thigh straps.
Yeah, I think people just bounce out. Plus, you can.
You have more control,
Absolutely.
like you do in a hard boat. You know, the hard boat has sides that you can grab a hold to.
You can shift your hips and body, and the boat will shift.
Yeah,
if
and
you didn't have those thigh straps.
Maneuverable.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I would recommend to you, for what it's worth, I'd put something in the front to press your feet against. You know, it could be a
they
thwart.
Were on back order.
Yeah, it could be a thwart. In fact, today I just interviewed another guy who put closed cell foam, like in a hard boat, I mean, an open canoe, that he had put in here and strapped in, which was a great solution.
Yeah, they have foot pegs that you glue them to the side, and they are maneuverable.
I've got those. Yeah, I've got those on a Air Lynx, and I like them. But I've also got another boat with just a mini thwart in the front that I think is a better solution, because if I slip off, I'm not going to scratch my leg up or something. But
that's a good
you know, but anyway, you can look at them and decide for yourself. But I'm glad you're going to put that in there. So you also added a little seat cushion here of some sort, right? A little extra padding. That's a good idea. I hadn't seen that.
I've got lots of extra padding everywhere except for where the bones go. And so I needed a little bit more.
Yeah. And so again, you can see, like many of the duckies, it's got a little thwart seat rest here, and you can let a little air out of that if you want a softer feel or whatever. I like that, and I've just recently ordered one for my boat that came with kind of a cheetah chair. And you can see,
back support.
Yeah, absolutely.
It fits right in the small of your back, so you're really getting the support where you need it, so I don't get tired.
Yes.
Straight up.
And you can see she's got her dry bag here, and a drink, and some carabiners, and so lots of places to strap those in, so that's great. It's like a lot of the NRS products, it's got the C7 leaf-filled valves, and I think those are excellent. That's sort of industry standard, good quality valves. Let's, can we flip this over? We'll look at the bottom.
Yeah.
Don't fall in. All right, yeah, we'll just lean it up here. So you can see this one is different from like the NRS Bandit and different from the NRS Maverick, because it's more of a catamaran. You're kind of really riding on the tubes, and the bottom is flat, and that means it will probably not track quite as well, but it would spin easier. But a nice smooth bottom. But what are your thoughts on the performance? I mean, you see the way these thwarts attach, they come through the drain holes, and also the
thigh straps.
Yeah, thigh straps.
So it's real adjustable to how you want it, which is great. And as far as the it doesn't track real straight, but most whitewater boats.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you got enough water pushing you down, it does great. If you're in flat water, it's not going to be fine.
I can get into eddies. I can make the turns that I need to real nice and sharp.
Yeah.
Not quite as sharp as a hard boat or my Fun Runner was, but still pretty good. Yeah.
And so my one complaint, I guess, about these boats that I guess there were two things when I compare it to a lot of other boats that I've paddled. And I know people have different opinions, but right here in the center, it seemed to like swamp there a little bit. Like, when you come through a big rapid, it didn't drain super fast. And but in some cases, I feel like that may have helped create like a ballast and sort of let me. Whoa, there's a train coming through. But anyway, that would be one of my little picky things about it that's different. I don't know that it makes a big difference, but it's just an observation from having done it. All right, so before that train came through, we were talking about a couple of things. The drop stitch floor, I think, is interesting. It's a similar design to like the Cronin Ugly Duck, because it can come out. I don't know how I feel about those. Like, I've been kind of back and forth with it. When you're airing it up and drying it out, that traps a little moisture under there. You may have noticed that. Yeah. Not a big deal, just, compared to some that don't come apart like that.
Yeah, you can, and when we get home, we usually rinse it off and I take it apart.
Take that part off.
And
yeah.
so it airs pretty good.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing is, you know, these it's got all those drain holes which make the thwarts very adjustable, but it's a little bit of a bear to move those around. I found, like tucking them through those holes, you got to half deflate it.
Yeah, it's pretty much easier when it's deflated.
Yeah.
Put the stuff through.
Yeah, but then you got to pump it up and figure out like where you're going to sit, or if you like that spot. So not a big deal. I just think one improvement could be like if they just sort of put cam straps on these guys, you could just zip, like, sort of let a little out, let a little, you know, might let it like move, make it a little, like, you know, we're just a little bit more adjustable or faster. But if you're setting it up for yourself permanently, it's not an issue at all.
No.
Only time I found that to be an issue is like I've been paddling tandem and I needed to switch it over to a position for solo, and then it was like a big pain to move it. But anyway, generally,
if that's the worst that it is.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. but generally, I would say, you know, I think these things really perform well, and they're a great value, really, from the NRS line. So, what are they, about 700 roughly? I'm trying to remember.
About 800.
Okay, about 800 new, and so while that's not cheap for a kayak, that's a kind of right in the middle of some of these ducky prices. You know, and I do think it's probably a better boat than like a tributary Tomcat, you know, which would be a step down in my opinion. So nice. In terms of weight, I can't remember the weight on these, 28 or 30.
Yeah, it's about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So I found it's a lot easier to carry around instead of putting it on your shoulder like you would a hard boat.
Yeah.
Put it up on your head and carry it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Really
and of course, you can roll these things up, throw it in a car, good to go.
That's my favorite part.
All right.
Because I can't reach to put it up.
All right, well, thanks for showing us the Outlaw. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, see you on the river. Thanks. Bye-bye.